This is Roy Cannaday from Epic Gaming Night, and this is my top 100 games. This week we're going to be looking at my number 70 to 61. One of the awesome things about getting to do this top 100 list is that you guys get to learn more about my taste in gaming. It's definitely interesting seeing everyone in the comments talking about games that they maybe forgot about or games that they're hearing about for the first time. So make sure to leave a comment below about what you think about my top 100, and let's get to the list. My number 70 is Lost Legacy. This basically takes the mechanics from Love Letter and twists them up a little bit so you're searching for this lost legacy and you're trying to figure out whose hand it's in, and at the end of the game being able to name where the lost legacy is. It's like a giant game of like hide and seek and like a shell game going on, but there's tons of different versions of this game, and it's fun to be able to mix and match and change out different cards, and I've definitely had a lot of fun playing Lost Legacy with my normal like Love Letter crew, and this game can really be played with most people, but it takes Love Letter a step up and makes it more gamerish. So my number 70 is Lost Legacy. My number 69 is a great negotiation game, and that is Dragon's Gold. This is a game where you have different heroes and there's a bunch of dragons in the middle with all sorts of different gems on them, and you're putting your heroes out there trying to beat it, and you basically have to work together with other players to beat the dragons. But when you beat a dragon, then that's where the game really starts, because you have to decide how you're going to split up all the different tokens that are on there, and having certain tokens, like you're trying to collect the different ones, get different colors, and it's all sorts of fun. You negotiate with the other player on who gets what exactly, and if nobody can come to terms within a minute, then nobody gets anything at all. So you can sometimes try to strong arm people into being like, oh my goodness, if you don't give me that color, then the deal's off, and they might like try to figure out a way to like make it even for both of you, and it's a whole lot of fun. So that's why my 69 is Dragon's Gold. I love social deduction games, and my number 68 is another one on the list. That is Shadowhunters. This is a game where people are on different sides. They're either the hunters or the Shadowhunters, and you're trying to figure out who's on which team. This game gives you lots of options to try to like reveal the card, and there's actually a lot of special abilities where you reveal your card and do a specific thing. But it's got this interesting little like hit point tracker where different characters have different hit points, and you can kind of try to figure out who people are based on how much damage they've taken, and be like, oh well, they can't be this person because they've taken this much damage. And it's a lot of fun trying to figure out who each other are and use all sorts of different weapons to knock the other players out. So that's why my number 68 is Shadowhunters. My number 67 is Entropy. This is another like small card game with very few cards, but it's a game where you're trying to put the shattered pieces of your reality back together. Each player are going to be playing cards simultaneously, trying to not clash, and that's the main part of this game. If two players play the exact same card, then neither of them get to do their ability. So you're trying to pick the cards that have good abilities when the other players aren't going to pick it, and try to figure out exactly when you can do the right things not to clash, but maybe you do want to clash to make sure another player doesn't get to do a specific thing you know that they might be trying to do. There's a lot of meta in this game and trying to figure out what the other players are doing, and the artwork is amazing. That's why my number 67 is Entropy. Back again with the social deduction games, but my number 66 is Spyfall. This is a game where all the other players know where the location is, and then there's one player that is a spy, and the spy is trying to listen to the questions other players are asking each other to try to figure out the location, and the other players are trying to ask the spy questions that they can't answer, so that way they can knock them out as the spy. It's a lot of fun and very interesting because you have to think of creative questions, and it feels like all the other players that aren't the spy have like an inside joke or like an inside thing that they know, and they're trying to figure out the best way to hint it without giving it away. It's always a ton of fun. That's why my number 66 is Spyfall. It's always good to have great gateway games to play with family and maybe non-gamer friends who aren't into super heavy games. And my number 65 is Flashpoint Fire Rescue. This fits my gateway category the best. I love the whole firefighter thing where you're trying to get in there, save other people, and get them out before the building collapses. I like how that all the different firemen have different special abilities. It's got like a family mode where you can play it even simpler, which I've been able to play with my son, and it's fun just being able to be fireman and be a good real life character and go in there and do the things and run out, get the people to the ambulance. Always exciting, and it's always tense when the building's about to collapse on you and you just need to get one more person out to win the game. So that's why my number 65 is Flashpoint Fire Rescue. My number 64 is Descent. This is a dungeon crawl scenario-based game where you have an overlord and then other players who are playing all these different fantasy heroes running around trying to hack and slash monsters and get through a scenario. I actually really like to play this game with the application. I've played it solo and tried to play through some of the scenarios. I've also played it with some of my family and friends, and it's just fun to be able to play this game cooperatively as well. Having your character, leveling it up, doing all sorts of fantasy things, fighting off dragons and all sorts of crazy awesome miniatures and monsters, and that's why my number 64 is Descent. My number 63 is the game that started off the deck building craze, and that is Dominion. Dominion is a great deck building game that's very basic in its levels, but there's all sorts of cool, amazing card combos. You're getting gold and trying to get all sorts of cool action cards to be able to set up combos in your deck so that we can get lots of awesome provinces to be able to have the most points. You also have to watch your opponent to make sure they're not getting more provinces than you and try to keep track in your head who's winning the game so you can know exactly how far you need to stretch and fill up your deck with provinces. I've played Dominion a ton with all sorts of different expansions, and it's always been very exciting to build those combos up and play the cards out. It's a great deck building game, and that's why my number 63 is Dominion. My number 62 is Bang the Dice game. This takes the card game of Bang and streamlines all that out of it and makes it a dice game where you're chucking dice trying to figure out who the outlaws are and who the renegade is and who the deputies are, and as the sheriff you're never quite sure, and you're chucking dice. It makes the game super streamlined and fast so that we can play it a whole bunch of different times, and it has that great social deduction that Bang is known for. So that's why my number 62 is Bang the Dice game. My number 61 is a great press your luck game where you can play with a whole bunch of different players, and that is Incan Gold. This is a game where you're trying to go into the Mayan temple and you only have two choices. Do you go deeper into the temple or do you run away? And you're trying to collect treasure, but it's divided evenly with all the players that are currently in there. There's all these different threats that can pop up, whether it be spiders or fire or crumbling rocks, and if two of those threats pop up that are the same type, then you lose everything that you've earned so far. So you're trying to figure out how far to go in and be able to collect the most and be able to run out to get your stuff back into your tent so that way you can be good, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. The thing that's exciting about this game is that if you can get in there with like one or two people, you're getting way more value for like each different location you go to because it's only divided by the number of players that are still in the temple. So it's always like just pressing your luck, going further and further and further. And if you're the only one in there, it's just like, should I keep going? It could be a great card, or it could be a threat that just makes me lose everything I've earned so far and I leave with nothing. So it's always tense and exciting press your luck, and that's why my number 61 is Incan Gold. Well, we've made it through another 10 games. Thank you so much for joining me as I go higher and higher into my top 100, and let me know if there's a game that you hadn't seen before, or a game that you really hope is on my list, or a game that you think would definitely fit my personality as far as gaming goes. So until next time, thanks for joining me on my top 100, and I'll see you then.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.